Bonjour! Welcome to another fun-filled content marketing video. I, of course, am John Lee, and today I want to talk to you about creating your origin story for your content and marketing. So, what is an origin story? Your origin story is basically the explanation of how you went from wherever you were. You know, I like to talk about the wrestler The Rock, now movie star. He has a very famous origin story called his $7 story, where on Monday he had $7 to his name and he had to get to a wrestling gig to try out for the WWE by Thursday. And that's his origin story. The story of how he did that displays his character, which is one of the things you want to do with your origin story. It builds an emotional connection with the audience, and it basically explains how you went from point A to point B. If you're wondering how The Rock became The Rock, then you hear his $7 story, you hear about how he got to that wrestling show, and he eventually got into the WWE. And what it does is it grounds your reality to his reality. When you look at someone like The Rock or a company like Facebook, which we'll talk about in a minute, you think, I could never do something like that. So the point of your origin story is to kind of humanize you, build an emotional connection with your audience, and let them go through the process of how you went from point A to point B. Now let's get into some structure. So I went to film school at USC. I've read probably 100 books on storytelling. I'm not going to get into the whole hero's journey thing and get real complicated and have all these like reluctant hero and the conflicts and all that stuff. Instead, I'm just going to give you a simple 3-part structure for your origin story. The first part is who you were, right? Whether you were Steve Jobs in the garage of the house in Palo Alto, whether you're Mark Zuckerberg in your dorm room, whether you're The Rock with your $7. That's who you were, how you were when you were not successful, right? Then there's going to be your conflict, the challenge, as I like to call it, the challenge that happened. Maybe you lost your job, maybe you got sick, maybe you turned around and realized you had made a lot of money, but now you were 300 pounds and miserable. Now you're dealing with the challenge, which is your process. Whatever you help people with is the thing that you had to overcome, obviously. And then the third part is nothing was the same. Not the Drake album, but what happens after you overcame this challenge, how you kind of were drawn in to serve and to teach and to follow this new purpose, right? The origin story really establishes your purpose and your mission. And those two things are really, really important for your content and your marketing because people want to feel that connection. They want to feel like there's more to you than just making money, than just having a business. So let's go through a couple of kind of famous origin stories here. One we talked about, The Rock and his $7 story. You can look that up. He also has another origin story related to his tattoo. Google those. They're pretty easy to find on YouTube. Another one we touched on was Apple, Steve Jobs' famous garage in Palo Alto story. You've probably seen a meme with the picture of the house. Facebook, you know, the whole movie The Social Network is essentially Facebook's origin story. Mark Zuckerberg, you know, falling for that girl and, you know, looking at the Facebook. I mean, they cleaned it up a little bit, but that is the origin story of Facebook, right? Apple wanted to change the world. Facebook wanted to connect people. All of these things are their mission and their origin story, and they've put a lot of money into these origin stories. So what I want you to do now is, as an exercise, I want you to write out your origin story. And it doesn't have to be huge, it could be a paragraph, but basically get those 3 parts. First, who you were. Number 2, the challenge. And number 3, nothing was the same. What happened after, your call to service, if you want to kind of use a more hero's journey type word. So that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. Be sure to create your origin story because people want to feel that emotional connection with you, especially if you're a freelancer, especially if you're a small business, especially if you're a coach or consultant. They want to know, number 1, that you overcame the obstacle that you're teaching, right? No one wants to learn dating coaching from a guy who hasn't had a date in 4 years, or how to build a successful business by a guy who's broke living in his mom's basement. So they have to see that you overcame the challenge. They want to see that you are human and they want to root for you and follow your journey. And then they want to be inspired and see your purpose and your mission and see that they can have that too. So get that all in your story. If you want to leave them in the comments, go ahead and I will talk to you very soon.